Welcome in to week 3 of our Lose 12 Pounds in 6 Week program. Hopefully, you guys had a good week last week. I want to just check in really quick, see how week 2 went for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think it went?
I'll say a 10.
Nice, Trent. Okay.
Same for me. I'll say a 10.
Nice, Laura. That's awesome.
I think I'd say an 8.
An 8. Okay, that's awesome.
I'll say an 8.
Okay.
I'll say a 7.
Awesome, you guys. That's perfect. Excellent. So we're hopefully going to start to take it all the way to 10s and 11s for you guys every week. And as we keep going, hopefully you're going to start to really reinforce what you're learning through this program here. But are there any wins to share in particular? I know of one in particular. Trent will definitely share yours. It's very exciting. So Trent actually had a win in week 1 as well. He was actually down 3.6 pounds, I think, in week 1.
3.4.
3.4. 3.4 pounds in week 1. And last week, he went down 4.4. So
Wow.
this
That's
is
awesome.
really awesome. Yeah, we definitely want to celebrate that. That's huge.
Yes.
Yes. So Trent has found his rhythm. And I really think, he really found an amazing rhythm when we were working together before as well. And I love it because you guys get to see like what this actually looks like is, when we go up and down, we have good weeks, good months, bad months, right? And what's cool about this is once you learn about this process, you don't beat yourself up. You just jump back into the cycle and rhythm. And that's what we're going to talk about today a lot. And we're going to get deeper in this, but you get back into the rhythm because you know exactly what you need to do. And then you just get better and better and better at this as you keep going, in other words. So Trent, I don't know if you're open to just sharing like maybe a couple of things that are really working well for you.
So, one of the things that I find most helpful is tracking calories, weighing things, measuring things. It takes the guesswork out of it for me. And I know it may seem like, you're having to take time to do this, but it takes the guesswork out. And for me, it's less stressful because I know exactly like what's going on. Like, for example, sometimes I make dishes that have like pasta in it, and I can do I can put everything in like one pot.
Mhm.
And so what I'll do is like before I put anything in the pot, I weigh my pot and find out how many grams that is.
Yeah.
Then I put all the food in there and cook it, and then subtract the weight of the pot.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, how many servings do I want out of this? And then divide it by that. And that's how many, servings that I'll get out of the meal. But really and truly, what's helpful to me is the app Lose It.
Yeah.
And there's a recipe creator on that. And you just go in and you put like the entire amount of like meat or tofu or whatever you're using, vegetables, any sort of ingredient. And then it tells you like how many calories the entire meal is. And so then I'll say, okay, I want to be, 4 servings or 6 servings. And then it tells me like, okay, each serving is this many calories. So that's what really helps me is like measuring everything and weighing everything. And prepping, like I was doing a lot of Chinese stir fries, which if you've never made Chinese stir fry, you've got to try it. It's so easy. It's so quick because you're cooking everything on high heat. And quite literally, you put the veggies in, you toss around, you put your sauce in, you toss around your meat. And I think I timed myself to cook it. It took me like 6 minutes.
Nice.
But the other thing is prepping, like prepping all of your vegetables and meal prepping and having these things, ready to go. And it's like you put in the effort once and then it makes the week like so much easier because then you're just like microwaving whatever. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've been doing, and that's what's been working for me is tracking calories, meal prepping, weighing, measuring, and that's what works for me.
Awesome. Trent, thank you so much for sharing that. That's huge.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I get like, not everyone's going to want to track their stuff, but even if you did it for like a couple days, just to have a general idea of what, how much it looks like and what it looks like actually in the portions, it really is super beneficial. And quite honestly, the more we put into this, the more results we're going to get out of it. So if we can prioritize a little bit of that, like as Trent was saying, like preparing makes your week 10 times easier if you can prep the meals ahead of time and all that. So it's amazing. Trent, keep it going. Man, you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That's huge.
Mhm.
And congratulations again, man. That's almost 8 pounds in a couple weeks here. It's pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
Excellent. So yes, let's jump in, you guys. Really, we've got a handful of things I want to cover, and we're really going to get into the cycles and phases here in this week because it's so incredibly powerful to understand. So we're going to start with that. We're going to get into carb cycling, which is the third and last approach of eating that I highly recommend. And it's not for everybody, but it really produces amazing results if you're willing to try it. Okay. We're also going to talk about the fat burning zone. And I'm going to give you several ideas on how to burn fat very effectively. The fat burning zone is the next one. We're going to get into high intensity interval training next week, which is another very powerful approach. And then, of course, we're going to talk about digestion today as well. I want to make sure you guys are like set up for success here. All right, so let's jump right into phases and cycles. So there are about 10 phases and cycles. I'm just going to kind of buzz through them really quick here for you. There's generally speaking a weight loss and fat burning cycle, a fasting and detox cycle, healing, recovery, strength building, bulking and mass building, endurance building, mobility and flexibility, boosting your immune system, maintenance and balance, and then there's a sedentary and inactive cycle. So these are all the main cycles or macro cycles, if you want to call them. And there's also sub-cycles within each one. And when you really understand this, it gets very powerful. So I really want to take you through this here. So the idea behind this is if you are in one cycle and you can dedicate all of your effort and focus and energy to it, you're going to get the best results from it. But where this gets very prevalent is if, let's just say, your body is in a particular cycle, but you're trying to get yourself into another cycle, it can be a conflict of interest, if you will, with your energy and your prioritization. And I want to give you an example. This is one of the most common ones. Let's just say that you have inflammation or arthritis or allergies, and there's inflammation, generally speaking, in the body, but you're trying to lose weight. Well, what happens is your body's trying to fix itself. It's trying to reduce the inflammation. And so when you start to do the things to lose weight, it's not the right time or priority for your body, right? Same thing as if you're injured or stressed out or sick or have a disease, your body's trying to dedicate energy to fixing, repairing yourself. And it's not going to be able to dedicate a whole lot of energy or efficiency to losing weight, in other words. Okay. So does that general idea make sense on a high level?
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. Essentially, what's happening is we have a set amount of energy, life force energy, that we can create whatever it is we need to create with. And your body's got a ton of processes it's already doing to maintain itself, to keep your well-being as optimized as possible. So what happens is if we're trying to lose weight, or if we're going into a different cycle, let me just kind of go back here. Oops, getting ahead of myself here. If we're trying to do any of these other things other than healing and recovering, like if we have an injury, if we've got a disease, if we've got something going on, we're stressed out, like chronic stress in the body, and which is causing inflammation, then we have to kind of take care of that first before our weight loss cycle could be very efficient and working very well. Okay, that's essentially what we're talking about here. And it's likened to your body's trying to put out one fire, and we're introducing another fire that's just simply spreading ourselves a little bit thin, and we can't work as optimally as possible. That's essentially what's happening. Okay. And so what's really cool about this is you can keep going with these cycle ideas. And I'm going to introduce to you a couple of different, very common cycles that you can really focus in on. And we're going to start with fasting because it's one of the most important ones. But actually, before I go any further, I do want to check in. Does anybody have like an injury right now? Or do they know of if they're sick or have like some dis-ease in the body? Because we can talk through that before we go any further. And just a simple thumbs up, or if you do have one, thumbs down.
So I have a comment. I don't know if it's related or not, but I had a vaccine this morning.
Oh yeah, you had a shot.
So yes, I had the shingles shot, which they say is a tough one.
Yes.
So I don't know if that will impact my week ahead.
Got it. Yep, it will. So as things like that happen, right? You get sick, you have a vaccine for the next day or two, for a vaccine especially, your body is going to be kind of combating those symptoms naturally, right? Because that got introduced into your body. So it's going to, in other words, the processes in your white blood cells, your red blood cells, all those are going to be taking care of that thing for you more so than necessarily losing weight, right? If that makes sense. So it's just important to understand these ideas, right? Because you will know, oh, it's okay. Let's just focus on healing the body for now. Dedicate all of our energy. Let's relax it. Let's be more in harmony with it and give it everything it needs so that we can really be successful here. And then after a couple of days, same thing when you're sick, right? If you're sick for a few days, it's okay. Like we don't necessarily need to be losing weight, although you can lose weight in tandem if you want to, but it's not necessarily like your top priority, if that makes sense. Like we want to get good at shifting between these cycles and what is the top priority for them. Okay. So thank you for sharing that, Mary. That's awesome.
Sure.
And so I'll give you guys like a very common example for like cycles and how we're going to use them in this program. As long as you're not injured, as long as you're not sick, then you can go after a fasting cycle if you'd wish and really hit it hard. And honestly, even if you are sick, fasting is a lot of times very beneficial for you because your body can dedicate all of its resources to, fighting off the illness without having to spread thin by digesting your food all the time throughout the day. So fasting is actually very beneficial in a lot of different cycles, which we're going to be talking about. But for example, let's just say that you want to enter into a 1-day cycle, a 24-hour cycle, and it's a 24-hour fast. What's cool about this is at first looking at this, it might seem kind of crazy, but if you can get yourself into the idea that you're going to get into this cycle for just 24 hours, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's much easier to focus and relax into it. And you can prepare yourself for this cycle. So you're not going to eat. So you're going to have lots of water at hand. You could still take your vitamins if you wanted to, or certain things. We're going to talk about that as we keep going as well, because you still could have like amino acids, like a powder drink, and still work out in a completely fasted state and still build muscle actually. So we're going to get into all this, but I just want to kind of introduce these ideas to you as we keep going here. Okay. Another common one is a 36-hour fast. And I'm basically just getting you guys into thinking through this for yourself to see, hey, what would I be willing to try? And you don't even have to do any of these. I'm just introducing some common ones that people get into because these will help you burn exponentially more body fat, like faster than anything else, quite honestly. And 48-hour fast. So these will be the ones I'd focus in on. I have done these several times. So I look at the 72-hour fast and a 7-day fast. I'm going to try to entertain that for myself over the next couple months here, doing a 7-day fast, because I've never done it before actually, but it's immensely powerful and it's unbelievably healthy for you. Because actually at the 48-hour mark, there's a documentary called Fasting, the movie, that introduces a lot of these ideas. And it's going to be kind of like a bonus for this week for you guys to check out. But the idea is at the 48-hour mark, your body has officially shifted over into using your fat stores primarily as energy. So essentially you've entered into ketosis, if you've heard of that term. And what's cool about that is you're not taking in any energy from food, which means you have tons of energy that you can use to detox your body. And it's called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's autophagy.
Autophagy.
Autophagy. Thank you, Trent.
Yep.
I knew I was going to mess it up.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
And there's a process called, I call it apoptosis, but I'm probably pronouncing it wrong as well. But it's basically your body and your cells getting rid of all the dead cells in your body and all the toxic cells. And it's detoxing your body and getting rid of those very effectively, starting at the 48-hour mark. So what happens is people will go into a 72-hour to a 7-day fast. And now days 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're completely detoxing your body to the next level, not to mention burning extraordinarily amounts of body fat naturally. And you're just drinking water. If it's an extended fast like that, you also want to make sure you're having minerals or electrolytes to make sure you're not getting dehydrated. Because that's one of the biggest common problems with fasting is if you're not familiar with it, you can easily get dehydrated, even if you're drinking water, actually. It needs to be mineralized water, or if you're taking vitamins, that's awesome, or electrolytes. So there's lots of ways to kind of keep it going in a healthy manner. I want to introduce these ideas to you guys so that you can just open your mind to them, maybe try it out, because I have news for you. You actually could lose several pounds during these fasts naturally. And if you get yourself into the idea of this, you take a break from eating, you give your body what it needs to detox itself, and you come out of it feeling like way better, way more focused, way more energy even. All these things start to, you're bringing your body back into balance very effectively. There's also a lot of like religious connotations to this. Like they say like the certain fasting, Buddha talks about it. Like it's everywhere pretty much, right?
So Tony, can I just ask you a question about that though?
Yes, of course.
So like yesterday, I was able to do like a 16-hour fast, and I went for my run during, I think like an hour 14.
Yeah.
And I felt great. And then I decided I was going to do it again yesterday night. So I did it, what was it? Monday night into Tuesday night. Okay. And so then Tuesday night into Wednesday, I did the same thing. I stopped eating like around 6 p.m. And then I went for my run this morning. And when I got back, I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to eat until, like 1 or something. But when I got back, I felt really lightheaded. And, I drank my amino acids and all that stuff, but I really felt like, okay, I really need to eat. And so I made a smoothie, and I did like the just egg and stuff. And so I ate healthy, but I felt like I really wasn't, I felt like lightheaded, like I needed to eat something. So I don't, the idea of even fasting for 24 hours and still doing the stuff that I normally do, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but I'm not sure. Maybe this was a weird day and this is how my body reacted today. Mm-hmm. But yeah, do you ever feel lightheaded or after doing something like that?
Yes. Amazing question, Ange. Thank you for asking this. So yeah, that's 1,000,000% to be expected. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this in week 1, I think, but it's this idea that we're habitual machines.
Yeah.
And your body is accustomed to eating.
Sure,
right? That's what it is. So your body's not accustomed to not eating yet.
Okay.
And this is the result of that. In fact, they say the first 2 days of fasting can be the hardest because your body, it's interrupting the cycle like to the extreme, essentially. To combat this, I'm going to give you guys one of the most powerful tools that you can possibly use. And you can use this in a lot of ways, actually. But when you feel lightheaded, or when you feel like very like tired, or like you don't have a lot of energy, it's your body shifting. It's shifting energy stores. It's trying to get used to what's happening here, what we're doing here. So what's cool about this is breath is life. Okay, we always come back to our breath and breathing because oxygen is our very first nutrient for the body. In fact, without breath, you can't live more than a few minutes. Like you have to be breathing. So without water, you can live for 3 days without water, but breath is the number 1 most important nutrient for the body. Well, we often forget about that idea and we come back to it to restore our life force energy. And there's a really powerful breath I want to teach you guys really quick that will help you. In fact, what I might do is I'll come back to you just for this one. So the idea is as you're breathing, you want to start to breathe with your belly. So what happens is, and we're going to talk about this in a lot of different ways, but every emotion and feeling you have, it's energy in motion. The idea is you breathe and it has a physiological like signature to that energy or that emotion. So a lot of times what we're doing here, it's unfamiliar. It's causing us a little bit of stress and we're feeling a little bit of anxiety around it innately. It's new to us, right? For a lot of us. And so that feeling has a particular breath, and it's usually a chest breath, and it's short and kind of it's not very slow, relaxed, and deep. It's the opposite. It's kind of short and like, pointed. It's just like, right? So the idea is if we interrupt that breathing pattern, because this happens unconsciously, by the way, you're just kind of breathing based off the energy you're in, right? So if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling like, I don't know if this is right, we regain our breath, and I bring you back to box breathing as a reset. Okay.
Right.
But there's another breath that is an invigoration breath. And this comes from Wim Hof. I learned this several years ago. He's the Iceman. If you guys have ever heard of him, he can go outside like in his bathing suit in the middle of winter for like hours because he learned how to control his breath. And it's kind of cool. We'll get into that if you guys ever want to. But the idea is this, is when you breathe in, every time you take a breath, it's reinvigorating your cells and your body with energy. So what we do is it's almost like a type of breathing pattern that they teach you when you're having a baby, where it's like you're taking in a lot, but what we do is it's full breaths in. Okay. So how I like to do this is breathe in through your nose if you can, all the way as fast and as quickly as possible, and then breathe out as quickly as possible. So it's a very heavy, like fast breath pattern. Okay. So if you need to, you can shift it over to mouth breathing only. But to introduce it, just like that's kind of what it looks like. Okay. You can go, you can if you want to, but you are more controlled by breathing in through your nose. Okay. Do this for 30 seconds. And the lightheadedness actually gets overpowered by reinvigoration. And you actually instantly feel better in that moment. And then what I do is I just drink water, like water combined with the breath. You've got everything you need to keep going after that point. And then you're interrupting the habit. And now that will not happen as often moving forward. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah. My pleasure. Try that out. Let me know what you think next time you do it. Okay. Awesome. Let me come back to you guys here. Okay. So there's only a couple more cycles I want to teach you guys because we want to start working in harmony with these ideas to the next level here. Oh yeah. And I just wanted to introduce, so Fasting the Movie is a documentary I highly recommend checking out because it really shows you the benefits of fasting in a lot of ways. And actually there was one thing I want to check in. Is anybody here on the medicine metformin? I know, Trent, we talked about this a while back.
Greg used to be on metformin, but he's not on that anymore.
Okay, brilliant. So certain drugs like metformin interrupt and conflict with the natural fasting process, actually. And so it's important to understand like what you're taking into your body before you kind of do anything. But if you're not on any medication, fasting is incredibly powerful and amazing for you. If you guys have this is about an hour and a half. So if you're willing to like maybe sacrifice a show or a movie like over the weekend or something to watch this, it's really super beneficial. And I think it'll be really great for you guys to check out. Okay. But there's two other very important cycles that we're going to be talking about here. And it's number one is your body's natural cycle. The organs and the systems of your body actually have an optimal operation time naturally. And like for instance, like your liver, your kidneys, your heart, every organ and system of the body, it operates very efficiently during certain hours. Well, it just so happens that 12 to 8 is when our body is primed and our stomach is primed, our intestines are primed to be able to take in food optimally and digest it and break it down optimally. So in other words, if you're eating at like 10, 11, 12 p.m. at night, 12 a.m. at night, it's outside of that harmonious cycle and your body, like it's not ramped up to be able to digest. And so it's actually going to be detrimental over time if you continue to eat like that. So this is just our natural rhythm, actually. So if we can work more in harmony with it, it's going to be to your benefit. From 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. it's using all of the food you took in and it's absorbing it. It's using it, it's assimilating it. It's delivering all the vitamins and minerals from your food and energy from your food to repair your body, to lose weight, to whatever you're doing, whatever the cycle it is you're in. It's dedicating your food to that area of your body pretty much, okay? If you're building muscle, during your workout, your muscle doesn't actually build. Why your muscle grows is just because of blood. At night is when your muscle grows, right? So your body, as it tore the muscle fibers in your muscles during the day, at night is when that gets repaired actually, and your muscles grow bigger and stronger for the next day. So nothing's actually happening during the day, quite honestly. It's all happening at night. And so between 8 and 4, if we haven't eaten anything, your body can dedicate all of its energy to using the food that it just took in during the day to do those things. Okay. And then the last cycle is elimination from 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's when our colon and all the elimination organs are able to eliminate most optimally, is in the morning and up until 12 p.m. So this naturally, if you didn't change a thing and you only started to operate 100% within this natural cycle, you're going to actually see a benefit and an improvement in your health. And you might even lose a little bit of weight because what happens is this is actually intermittent fasting for 16 hours. It just so happens that's the way our bodies were designed for, to maintain our balance here. I honestly don't know where breakfast came from. and why we, it breaks the fast and why we started eating it as soon as you wake up in the morning. But the idea is our body was not designed for that. So wherever that came from, we can start to interrupt it and return back to our natural state. And that's what I highly recommend, is working more in harmony with this. To work more in harmony with this idea is every food has a digestible time in the stomach. And if you happen to notice that fruits, vegetables, whole grains take the least amount of time to digest. In other words, it's the easiest to digest for our body. All these other foods, processed foods, dairy, meat, and then nuts and seeds take a lot longer to digest as well. And beef and pork and sausage actually take the longest. So certain meats take more than 4 hours to digest in the stomach. So if you're eating certain foods and combining certain foods, what happens is there's a compound effect. And let's just say you have a typical burger, which is meat and just a bun. It could take nearly 6 hours to digest that in the stomach all the way. And so that's why a lot of people feel so full and lethargic and fatigued and heavy after eating a certain way, because of this digestion cycle for food here. The idea, and what I want to teach you guys, is if you can stick to eating right between this window, 12 to 8, it's optimal. If you can eat foods that digest very easily in the body, and they happen to correspond, by the way, to the amount of water and fat that's in there. Oh, Wendy. Yes, go ahead. There's a question.
Guys, is there a way that like these charts, I love referencing them, that like you can email them to us where we can save like as a PDF as a quick reference?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Absolutely, Wendy. I'll do that. These charts are in my little like PDF book that I provided you guys, but I will actually send them to you in an email, so you actually have all these. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, these are super beneficial to go back to. Yeah. Thank you for that, Wendy. Cool. Yeah, so the idea behind this is extraordinarily powerful. And what they say is if you can eat fruit by itself, or if it's with a smoothie and it's mixed up, it doesn't really matter as much. But fruit by itself digests the fastest and it gives you the most energy immediately. So a kind of a thing that I started to do is my first meal of the day is fruit. It's either fruit or a fruit smoothie. And I'll have it and you'll digest that within about 30 to 45 minutes, usually, if it's a lot of fruit. And then now you can eat anything else from that point forward, but you got the energy from that fruit immediately. Okay. What's funny about that is if you happen to have fruit with like meat, let's say, is it can putrefy and begin putrefying in the stomach because the meat takes 4 hours to digest. Well, it can hold up the fruit and it could be like 4 hours sitting there in your stomach, actually. So you see fruit like literally die on your counter. Well, it's the same type of thing happening in your body and your stomach. So that's why they say if you can have fruit by itself, it's very beneficial for the body because it'll just go right through. Okay. That's really the only rule. And just being more cognizant of the combinations of foods that you guys are eating. Pretty much any vegetable can be combined with anything else and it's fine. Like your body can digest that, no problem. But it's really like these types of foods that you really want to be cognizant of. And quite honestly, if you only ate like one meal a day, then that's what I'd recommend for these types of foods, quite honestly. 2 meals a day tops, because your body, it takes so long to digest. If you had 3 meals a day, which a lot of people do, of these types of foods, you're taking all day to digest it pretty much. And it's all of your life force energy is going to digesting that type of food. So I hope this really makes sense. And it's a very powerful idea. And how you test this is actually track how much energy you have and how you feel when you're eating a certain way. Okay. And if you happen to work more in harmony with this, then you can see, oh my God, I have so much more energy. I feel so much lighter. I feel like I can take over the world. Like that's kind of what ends up happening when you're working in harmony with this. That's the last idea for this appropriation here. The last rhythm is your circadian rhythm. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that our body, everything is in harmony with everything, with the sun even. So the idea is with this, when the sun rises, we have light, right? We have sensors in our body, especially in our eyes, that help release melatonin and serotonin. Well, when you wake up, your melatonin goes down, serotonin goes up, and it naturally wakes your body up. It wakes up the organs more effectively, right? Your elimination organs are being woken up, ready to eliminate. All these things are happening. There's a time kind of lapse that's happening. Within a few hours, your body is now getting primed and getting ready to eat around 12 p.m. and then it's ready to eat and go through the other cycles I just shared. The same thing happens when it gets dark. As the sun sets, naturally, our melatonin levels start to go up, serotonin goes down. Well, what happens when, we enter into our industrial age era that we're in right now, where we have unnatural light in the house, right? We stay up later. We're out of harmony kind of with Mother Nature, and melatonin has gotten released, but then it actually subsides and serotonin kicks back in throughout the night unnaturally, and it can interrupt your sleeping cycle. Okay. So what they tell you is at least an hour or two before bed is when you should shut off any electronic devices. You should kind of keep your home kind of very lightly dimly lit, but try to lower the lights in your home and your room and that type of thing, so that melatonin can get released again ahead of time so that you can fall asleep easier. We're going to be talking about this later on in our program a little bit deeper about sleep, especially because it's super important. But this idea is a rhythm. And I just wanted to introduce this to you guys so you can start working more in harmony with this as you keep going here. Okay. But this is the general idea. And those are the rhythms that we want to start to work in harmony with much more often. So a quick check-in. I know that was a lot. Any questions on any of that?
I find it so interesting, Tony, especially the whole breakfast. It's a lot to take in, but I love this. I think this is where a lot of my challenges have been, right? To lose the extra weight I've wanted, and being an athlete and working out and doing different things is you hear so many different stories. Oh, you have to have breakfast, and I'm not a big breakfast eater. So then I'm like, well, am I not losing because I don't eat breakfast? Or, and we could talk more one-off, but like same thing, like I'm working out. Well, you're supposed to have protein after you work out. Like there's just so many theories, but I think this has been one that's helped me the most, and I think I'm having the most success with, along with the mindset conversation. So it's been great information.
Awesome. Wendy, thank you so much for sharing that. That's huge. I appreciate that. Yes, this, to me, we're kind of returning back to our natural balance here with all these ideas. And the more you work in harmony with it, the better results you're going to get. Right. And there, by the way, I do want to mention that, yes, all of those ideas and what people recommend, those all have their own place. Like, yeah, protein after a workout is definitely great, but it all depends on your goal. Like if you're not trying to become a bodybuilder, then it's not really that big of a deal. It's all relative, in other words. So I love that you said that. So appreciate that, Wendy. Awesome. Okay. We'll spend a few minutes on this and then just a couple minutes on the last items, because these are just kind of different options you guys can try. Okay. Carb-Cycling is the last approach I'm going to be teaching you guys for eating. It is very powerful. It's what I personally use to get like into a shredded six-pack. Essentially, all it is, day 1 is low carb, day 2 is medium carb, and day 3 is high carb. And I already did the math for you guys here, so I just want to show this to you quick. This is for a daily calorie ceiling of 1,000 calories. Okay, so you just adjust this based off of your daily calorie ceiling. So naturally, in the calorie density approach, we're eating high carbohydrates. Okay, literally 60% of your daily calorie intake is coming from carbohydrates with the calorie density approach. 20% is coming from protein, and then 20% coming from fats. Okay, so this right here is kind of our baseline. So what we're doing is shifting that. So really, it's truly about 5% coming from carbs now on low carb day, 5 to 10% coming from carbs. And we're just basically shifting. So now your protein intake is going to go up and your fat intake is going to go up as a result. So essentially you're eating the same amount of calories, but it's just much lower carbohydrates, much higher protein and fats. And quite honestly, you can shift these however you want, as long as it's within the same calorie of 1,000 calories for this example here. Okay. So every one of these is 1,000 calories. That's just, we're tweaking and lowering our carbs, raising the other two. I hope that makes sense. But what's cool about this is on low carb day, your body stays in a fasted state, essentially. Let's just say you ate your last meal at 8 p.m. the night before. Okay. The next day, you only eat 25 to 50 grams of carbs. Well, what happens is your body, because it ate so low carbs, it didn't actually start using glycogen as energy all the way. It started using fat for energy, and it stayed with using fat for energy. Okay. And if you only ate that many carbs that entire day, then your body has been burning a lot more body fat, similar to intermittent fasting. In fact, it's the very same mechanism that's occurring between this approach and intermittent fasting. So they're equally important and exponentially powerful for burning fat. So what's cool about this, though, is you don't have to stay in a fasted state all the way. Is on day 2, you just eat a little bit more carbs. Your body is going to kind of break the fast officially, and it's going to use a little bit of the glycogen from that food as energy. However, it's not enough to fully go in to that mode. So it kind of still stays in fat burning mode a little bit as well. So it's almost like you're working in tandem with one another. Okay. And then on day 3, you refuel and you bring your carbs all the way back up. And then you physically have more energy. You're feeling better. So in other words, during here, you have a little bit lower energy levels, a little bit higher, and then the most energy levels. So what they say is naturally is if you can work out on the high carb day, and then you take your day off on the low carb day. So again, you're working in harmony with this type of cycle, if that makes sense. As I mentioned before, this isn't for everybody, but it is very powerful if you can do this for several cycles in a row. It's almost like you're intermittent fasting twice as long naturally. Okay. So it's just a different option, a different approach, and it's just a different way to burn body fat. And I personally use this along with intermittent fasting to get like a very shredded 6-pack. It does take effort though. Like you have to lower your carb intake to get a shredded 6-pack. So it's kind of more difficult if you don't eat meat, quite honestly, because most of a plant-based diet is more carbohydrate heavy. So for me, I have to fast a bit more because just the way it works out. So does that make sense? That's just really another option to tap into. Okay, awesome. Fat burning zone. This is really cool. And this is one of the most popular ways to lose body fat very effectively. There's a natural rhythm in how your body works and how it burns body fat. Well, high intensity interval training taps into up here where it's burning lots of energy. It's likened to, and we're going to talk more about this next week, but it's likened to you flooring your car and it's burning all the gas in your car and it's wasting all the gas. Well, the same is true as if you're accelerating your body in your high intensity interval, you're going through intervals, it's flooring your engine, your car, it's burning the most energy. However, if you look at what's actually happening, is it's burning all of your glycogen and it's not burning a whole lot of fat. And I'm going to tell you why. And when you're burning all of your energy, it's a survival mechanism. Your body innately is going into survival mode and it's going to hold on to its fat stores in survival mode as we learn. In other words, it's not the most optimal for burning body fat. It is for burning the most energy and calories, but it's not for burning body fat. So again, what we're trying to do is work really smart and in harmony with the way our body works. So what's cool about this is the moderate level of energy. And this is essentially like you can talk, but your breathing is a bit heavy, but you can still talk, like you still have a conversation. That's how you know you're in the fat burning zone. What the 60 to 80% means is of your max heart rate. If you take the number 220, subtract your age from it, 220 minus, I'm 43, so it would be 177 is my max heart rate. And your max heart rate is basically redlining. It's 100%. And this is on average, by the way. It would be 100% effort. So what we do is we multiply that 177, whatever that is for you, multiply it by 0.6, which is 60%, and then multiply it by 0.8, which is 80%. So if you wear a Fitbit, you have a machine that measures your heart rate, if you keep it within 60 to 80%, your body is not going into survival mode all the way. It's able to just burn calories evenly between carbs and fats. And it's what they call fat burning zone. So it literally lets go of the most body fat during this type of exercise. So what I personally do is I try to do intervals within the 60 to 80% range. So for instance, if my heart rate, I think I try to keep it between 110 and 145. Well, what I do is I get it down to 115-ish, and then I go for a burst for 30 seconds, get it up to 145, maybe sometimes 150, and then let it go back down. And I just alternate between those. Okay. That way you're not killing yourself. You're not way out of breath. You can't talk, but you're burning the most body fat during those intervals, actually. All right, and you could do it with cycling, with running, with dancing, with anything. Like it's basically any type of activity you can get your heart rate up to this level pretty easily. Well, what's cool about this too is the easier stuff, like just walking, is also beneficial because you're not in survival mode. Your body opens up its fat stores and it's using a good amount of fat actually. And it's not using as many carbs actually because it's not as much effort. So walking is also equally a very powerful fat burning tool for us. So that's why they say a lot of people, like if you go for a hour walk a day, you drop weight, like you're dropping weight easily. It's just a great routine to start to explore. Okay. That's it in a nutshell. And it has to do with your survival mode that we talked about in week 1. And high intensity interval training does tap into this. And we're going to talk about that next week, but it's not for everyone. And it's not even the most beneficial for burning body fat. So that's why I want to kind of introduce fat burning zone first, because it is the most beneficial for burning body fat. Okay. Digestion, a show of hands. Who of you guys have any digestion problems? Or is anyone intolerant to anything? Angie, okay.
Yeah, I feel like I have digestion problems, yes.
Okay.
I don't know that I have an intolerance. I think that, yeah, I have digestion problems.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I myself too, I actually became lactose intolerant when I was 20. And, I've been lactose ever since. Well, what's funny about this is if you have any digestion problems, even like bloating and certain things like that, I'm going to help you re-inoculate your digestive system. And there's a couple of supplements that you can use to do this. Okay. What's actually happening as soon as you eat, you're chewing your food. That's when digestion starts. In fact, it starts when you actually touch food and are looking at your food that you're about to eat. That's when your organs start to actually ramp up. Enzymes start to get produced in the stomach. And literally when you're preparing your food and you're starting to cook it. So that's actually when digestion starts, but it physically starts when you start chewing your food. So as soon as you chew your food, it's breaking down that food. It's combining chemically with your saliva. And then now there's a reaction that starts occurring and digestion's starting to break down the food more effectively. Your saliva starts that process. Well, as soon as you swallow your food, it goes into your stomach and your stomach has what's called enzymes that actually further break down your food in the stomach acid. And by then your food is starting to get down to, littler pieces. And then once it goes from your stomach, it's going to go, as soon as it breaks it down to very small pieces, it goes into your intestines for the gut flora that live in your intestines to break it down even further. And all gut flora is good for you symbiotic bacteria that is just working to break down the food you're consuming. And we got billions and billions of these good for you bacteria that live there. And there's about 40 different cultures that live in your intestines. Okay. If you have a full spectrum of all of the enzymes and all of the cultures of bacteria, you could break down any food, no problem. But what happens is for most of us, we eat a certain way, which certain foods get broken down by certain enzymes and by certain cultures of bacteria in the intestines. And what happens is over time of years or decades of eating a certain way, is your body naturally fosters the growth of certain enzymes and certain cultures of bacteria primarily, which means other enzymes go away and other cultures of gut flora go away as well. So let's just say you start to eat healthier and you're trying to eat fruits and vegetables or whole grains, but you get lots of digestion problems from it. It's because you don't have the right enzymes or the right cultures of bacteria to break down that food effectively. So it's not a problem with you. It's just a problem with how we've been eating for a long time in our life here. Well, there's 3 supplements, 2 mainly, but 3 if you wanted to, that will help you re-inoculate your digestive system. One of them is digestive enzymes, which re-inoculate the enzymes in your stomach. And I highly recommend a full spectrum enzyme, meaning all of the enzymes that you need. Same thing with a probiotic is gut flora. So a probiotic is the good for you symbiotic bacteria. And I highly recommend the more cultures, the better. Usually there's like 8 billion to 100 billion CFUs, which is the amount of bacteria that's in that culture. But then there's different types of cultures. And I have it in my book actually, but there's like 20 something different cultures mainly that you would get from a probiotic. Get the most amount of cultures from your probiotic. That's my recommendation, because that'll help you digest the most amount of foods, actually, the greatest amount of foods. And then prebiotic or postbiotic is simply food for the probiotic, for the gut flora. Well, what's cool is all this is vegetables, because that's what those bacteria naturally eat, is like spinach and fiber, like from your vegetables. It actually consumes that. So all a prebiotic or postbiotic is broken up spinach, veggies, and that type of thing. So if you're already eating that way, you don't necessarily need to take a prebiotic or postbiotic. because your body's naturally getting the foods that your probiotics already are going to be eating. So really the first two are what I recommend if you have digestion problems. And Angie, I know you and I have talked about this a lot. Basically, when a food is getting digested in your stomach, if it can't digest in your stomach, it's going to kind of give you like stomach pains. Okay. And literal stomach pains happen in the body, and it just doesn't feel right. Okay. It doesn't cause bloating though, until it gets to your intestines. So if you're getting a lot of gas and bloating issues, that's from the gut flora.
Yeah, the digestive enzymes, they really work. My problem is I forget to take them.
Okay. Yeah.
So they really do work. I mean, if I could just be more consistent with using them, I would be in better shape. So I would highly recommend them as well. It's just I have to be more consistent.
No worries. We're all on this journey, Ange. Seriously. So that's all we want to kind of focus in on is if we do have digestion problems, these are some of the things you can tap into. And I've tried lots of different brands and a lot of them work great. There are a couple in particular that work really, really well. Dr. Tobias enzymes are awesome. Garden of Life enzymes are great. And there's a handful that are really good. Same with probiotics. If you can get them refrigerated, those are awesome because they're living cultures. Some of them have a shelf life though that you can get that are not refrigerated that still work pretty well. The idea though is test it out for yourself and see how it makes you feel. How you'd actually take them is for digestive enzymes. You could take it a few minutes before any meal, and quite honestly, before every meal if you wanted to. So literally you could take a digestive enzyme up to 6 times a day if you needed to, and it'll help you just simply digest every single meal if you're eating 6 times. For a probiotic, you just take it once in the morning or once at night. And you determine when you want to do it because it honestly helps you regulate your bowels. So if at night you're taking it and you're eliminating like during the day at work, you might not want that to happen. So you might want to take it in the morning. So you eliminate at night, or you have to kind of experiment with that for yourself. Okay. What I find is I take it in the morning. It just keeps me regular and I eliminate beautifully the next morning. Like it's just kind of, you got to kind of see how your body works with it. Okay. But if you take those, they will simply help you break down your food most effectively. It'll help you actually get the nutrients, vitamins, minerals from your food all the way. And in other words, it'll help you utilize the energy from your foods most effectively. And you're simply setting yourself up for success. So I highly recommend, even if you don't have digestion problems, to try this out because it'll get the most out of your food. So that is it. I just want to touch base really quick. And I know I mentioned this in our little objectives video, but chapter 5 talks about this all the way. And page 20 talks about cycles as well. So this will just help reinforce kind of what we're talking about here. And then of course, Fasting the movie, I highly recommend. It's a very cool documentary. It really gives lots of doctors. It's all of this is being tested by doctors, and it's being tested finally to the next level. And that's what I love about this is there's a lot of scientific data coming in about it. Well, I already know about it because I've been doing this for 8 years, but I love that it's being really corroborated with a lot of cool people here. So check that out for yourself. And let me actually come back. That's the last of our slides here. That is all I wanted to kind of cover in week 3 for you guys. I know it was a lot. Any questions? How did this whole thing sound?
Really great. Yeah, really good today, Tom.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Any questions before I let you go? No? Okay. Oh, you guys are awesome. You guys are going to do so good here. I'm loving this. Excellent. All right. Well, listen, if anything comes up, please shoot me an email. But we're going to keep going deeper with all these ideas as we keep going here. And I'm really excited for week 4 coming up because we're really going to put everything together. Oh, yes. Thank you, Wendy. You too. Have a great day.
Bye, Wendy.
But we're really going to start to put things together so that you really can get a next level type of program. Because quite honestly, let you guys in on this little secret here. I don't expect the results to come in for you until the last half of this program. So Trent, you're way out ahead of it. It's really designed to just learn about it the first few weeks and then really apply it the last few weeks here. Okay. So I'm really excited because we're going to get into some next level stuff here, and we're going to combine a lot of the mindset stuff that we're doing too. So stay tuned for that. All right, you guys, I hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you on our next call here next Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Tony.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, guys.
Thanks. Bye, you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Angie.